Hey guys, Tony here. Back once again to do another random record poll album review, and the pick for today is an interesting one, maybe a bit more contemporary than what we've been talking about, and that is an album by the band Earth, and this is Hex, or Printing in the Infernal Method, released in 2005 on Southern Lord Records. Earth, if you've never heard of them, are a drone doom band, or doom drone, however you say it. Very influential. They hail from Olympia, Washington. Started in the early '90s, and of course at that time Olympia, Seattle, close by, the whole music scene going on then. K Records in Olympia, and then of course Sub Pop. So again, if you've never heard of them, you may have heard of Dylan Carlson. This is his band, sort of his whole idea. Dylan Carlson was good friends with Kurt Cobain. If you're a fan of Nirvana, you've probably heard of Dylan Carlson. The song In Bloom was written for Dylan. And Dylan is also known because he bought the gun in which Kurt killed himself with. That whole story. But anyway, out of that whole music scene comes Earth. Very different. And again, I'm going to mention the minimalists because Dylan was influenced by Lamont Young. Specifically, Lamont Young's ideas on drone music. And the idea that there's sort of music within the drone. There's melody within the drone, and that whole thing. So I think he wanted to sort of expand on that or do that in a sort of rock band setting. So Earth has always been a band that sort of straddled the line between the avant-garde and rock music, sort of neither committing to neither. So in an interesting spot. Without Earth, you wouldn't have bands like Sun and maybe even Boris, things like that. So influential in that way. Their early albums were released on Sub Pop. Their first EP, Extracapsular Extraction, I believe it's called, has Kurt Cobain actually contributing vocals on it. Their early sound was much more saturated and distorted. No matter what, even on this, Earth has always have these words to describe them. These sort of massive, this mammoth sound, this monolithic sound, this huge thing. And yes, their music is meant to be played loud. So their early albums were so distorted and they're almost beautiful in a way. It's hard to describe. Specifically, Earth 2 on Sub Pop Records. So they put out a number of releases. Their last one being Pentastar in the Style of Demons, which is a much more rock and roll oriented album. Sort of like Earth trying to do rock and roll, or a band influenced by Earth trying to do rock music. It's an interesting album. But after that, in 1996, Dylan went on hiatus, and so Earth, of course, went on hiatus for a number of years. I think because of drug problems and other issues going on. So after a number of years, other bands popped up influenced by Earth. And, a lot of bands on Southern Lord. So Earth eventually came back. When they came back, they had a cleaner sound on this. This is their first studio album back after 9 years. And they had a cleaner sound. This specifically, they had a much more of a Western, you picture like a desolate Western landscape, desert, and ghost towns and things like that. It's decidedly Americana, but still it is drone. Now what you have here is when you imagine drone with this, don't think of like guitars feeding back and drones that way, or even Indian music with its drone. Sort of Eastern music like that. What you have here is a rock band playing this slow chords, these notes over and over in a repetitive way. And then over time, it starts to change. Now, I've seen Earth live, and I gotta say that the whole idea of Earth and what they do comes off much better live, at least in my opinion. After a while, the music, there's this other thing going on there. It sort of turns into this whole other thing. And at this point, of course, they've added much more improvisation, and there's that whole thing going on. And this is a good example of that. As the album even progresses, there's much more improvisation going on, and it's a really interesting album. Again, heavy stuff to be listened to loud. It's very serious music. You kind of have to be in a mood. Me personally, I have to be in the mood to listen to this. But when when I am, it really, it hits you right. It's fantastic music. It's not music really to party to, not music to like drive to. It's music to sort of put on when you're in the mood and play it loud, and it's phenomenal. It really is interesting stuff. Again, it's not rock and roll. It's not avant-garde. It straddles the line, and it's an interesting thing. Now, since Earth came back, it's the only two members are Dylan Carlson. The two permanent members, I should say, are Dylan Carlson and probably, I don't know if it's his wife, his girlfriend, Adrian Davies. She plays drums. Well, when I saw Earth a couple of years ago now, it was an all-female group, and they always have different members playing on with them, sort of this rotating cast of members playing different instruments. I saw them as all-female group. They had a cello player there, the same cello player that played on Nirvana's Nevermind. Her name escapes me. I'm sorry, Nirvana's Unplugged. Anyway, interesting album, interesting band to listen to. This is one of my favorites. Their album after this, the Bees Made Honey and the Lion's Skull, is also an excellent one. This isn't the easiest one to find anymore. I'm sure you could find it if you had money for it, but thankfully I bought it. When I bought it, it wasn't cheap, but it wasn't what it goes for now, let's say. But yeah, their first album back after a 9-year hiatus, very much Western influenced, but a fantastic album. So there you go, guys. Check it out. Earth, Hex are printing the Infernal Method, 2005, Southern Lord Records, Doom Drone. So there you go. Leave me comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. I'll have recent vinyl finds coming up soon. Some good stuff. So thanks again.